Hi, my name is Willa Brigham. I'm sure I'm a familiar face by now, and I have guests today that I'd love for you to meet. These individuals are instrumental in skiing. Their activities after school in the Wilmington area is known by everyone in this area because so many students have had the opportunity to go beyond just skiing for fun, and some people have become racing persons and learning how to ski and teaching, as well as going out to Colorado to become even better at what they enjoy doing. The two persons that are very important with this particular activity are Mr. Bill Peabody and Mr. Frank Birmingham. Both of them are instructors here in the Wilmington School District, and we're going to be sharing information, or they will be sharing information that will help you become better skiers, find better equipment, and get to know something about what to expect when you go skiing. Thank you for coming.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Willa.
I understand both of you have been with the ski program for a number of years. When did it start?
19 years ago, this year, is when we actually sort of call the founding of it. And that was at a sort of an activity program that was after school at the North Intermediate School. And it expanded from that point to be the program that it is today.
Fantastic. About how many people do you have involved in it on a yearly basis?
On a year, actually, Willa, there are several aspects of the program in our instructional program, which runs in each of the schools in town, from grades 4 through 12. We have a little over 200 students involved in the program this year. We also have another aspect of the program, and that is when we take the kids on trips to other areas beyond the instructional program, giving kids an opportunity to ski up in some of the mountains of New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine. Of course, the ultimate trip is taking them out to February, out to Colorado, out west.
Now that sounds like a trip I would be interested in. This year I've just begun to ski, and I feel very good at Bradford. I can ski each and every hill, thanks to both of you. Oh. I appreciate that. As a chaperone, what is expected of me as a person dealing with the students after school?
Well, as you well know, you've been at it and helping us out, and we greatly appreciate your assistance in the program. It certainly could not run without chaperones such as you. What we ask of the chaperones is to assist us in coordinating the kids' traffic control as far as getting the kids on the bus after school, riding the bus over to the hill, assisting the kids in getting through the rental shop if that may be the case, or helping them in getting their equipment on in the beginning weeks. And what we try to stress is for the chaperone to demonstrate with one boot and one ski and one binding, and then have the student skier apply what he or she has learned with the other ski, boot, and binding. When the program is through, we ask the chaperones to assist us in returning the rental equipment, coordinating the students on the bus, and taking attendance, and whatever need be. As you probably, I'm sure you're well aware, the first week of the program is rather hectic. The second week, certainly less busy. And by the fourth week, we chaperones are usually sitting around with a cup of tea and wondering, you know, do they really need us? Because the kids really do quite well.
I was surprised as a chaperone that they are so quick to catch on. They are so eager to learn, and with all that spirit and energy, I was just enthusiastic for them. So it made it very easy for me to get into the flow of things also. I remember one day I went and I was standing at the door waiting for them to come, and when I got into the door, I said, "I'm waiting for my people." And the guy says, "Well, I'm sorry, they've already gone." Sure. I said, "What? I'm not needed? My heart is broken." The program is fantastic. I enjoyed it thoroughly. My son has been skiing for, this is his second year, and it has been wonderful for him, and many of his friends enjoy it. So tell us about ski equipment. I was amazed at all the beautiful outfits I saw, and the various colors and boots, and the various name brands and insignias. Tell me about them. Start with boots.
I think the first thing that we should stress is that ski equipment runs a huge gamut of price. And you can pay from $49 for a pair of boots to $449 for a pair of boots without any problem at all. So, not to scare away anybody from skiing because of the high price of things, but there are a number of ways of attacking the problem. I brought with me a rear entry, lower priced boot. to show you. This one happens to be a Dolomite. By rear entry, what we're talking about is the fact that you get into the boot through the back of it. It's a very easy boot for a beginner in the fact that you step in, you close one latch there, push it through, and pull the buckle over, and you're in the boot. And getting out is the same process in reverse. You push the latch to open, and then just slide out and you're out of the boot.
I was surprised at how much cushion and comfort is involved in a boot.
Well, a lot of people think that you need to wear several pairs of socks in order to keep warm and so forth. That was true of the old boots, when they had leather boots that were poorly insulated. Today's boots with a plastic shell and the inner liner is a fully insulated Thinsulite liner. It's not necessary to wear all the heavy socks and so forth with them. One pair of relatively thin street socks is all that's necessary. We try to stress with the youngsters, though, not to wear the socks they wore to school, because they tend to be damp from their feet, and they get into the boot and it makes their feet cold. But to change their socks before they put their boots on, so they're getting into a dry boot with a dry sock, and it keeps them warm. This boot here, as I said, is a moderately priced boot. It could be purchased anywhere from about $49.95 in a package. If you bought it individually, someplace below $80. Mr. Birmingham has a better boot here.
This is the Lang, and this is one of the higher priced ski boots, and it also offers many varieties of adjustments. Right? This is unlike the rear entry that Bill showed you. This is the front buckle boot, where you would open the four buckles up, get yourself into the boot. All right, and then it has many different adjustments in order to tighten the boot up over the foot, from the buckle adjustments to the smaller buckle adjustments to the flex of the boot, the cant of the boot, the lean of the boot. This certainly is a higher priced boot, and you would be at the top of the line of skiing to warrant using a boot of this nature. While we're on equipment, if I may, you know, as far as boot maintenance goes, one of the things that we're now at the end of the ski season for a lot of people, a little secret that people should be aware of is at the end of the season, what they should be doing at this point is to be taking the liner out of their boots at this point in the season.
They come out hard and they go in harder.
They do.
So we're guaranteed for this boot to be long lasting.
Absolutely. If you do this, you take the inner liner of the boot out and allow the boot to in fact sit, draining the moisture out of it for a period of time, as well as the inner boot, to allow that to get very dry rather than sitting and allowing it to mildew and rot, if you will, during the summer. Much needed operation.
Fantastic. I was trying on boots recently, and I noticed that as an intermediate, I was asked, did I want to be able to grow with this particular boot? And if so, it would allow me flex control. And they did a lot of measuring in reference to no room in the toe, tightness of the heel, and across the instep. When you go to look for a boot as a beginner, this boot that you've brought is a great starter?
It's a good starter.
A good starter, okay. And the boot that you brought is expert, long-term. About how long would that boot last?
This boot here, I hope forever.
Excellent.
This boot here is 4 years old, and one of the tips that we present to the children in the program is, if you wear it on snow and not on the pavement and not in the parking lot, your boot should last you an awful long time. What generally tends to wear out with a boot is the toe and the heel, and it's not from getting worn out on a ski with a slip pad on there. It's not from getting worn out on the snow. It's from the kids wearing them in the parking lot, wearing them across the dirt and things like that. If you take care of your boot, it'll last a long time.
If I may, what we're talking about here is primarily the wear in the toe, because as a student walks in it, he rolls the toe up, and this rounds the toe this way. If any of the people watching are going to purchase used boots, one of the things that we encourage them is to look at the bottom and make sure it's not too well worn, because it's the front of the boot which slips into your binding on the ski. And if that front is too worn, the binding won't release the way it ought to. Same way with the heel of the boot. Okay, if someone has walked off one side of the heel, your release adjustment on that side won't be good. So that's something you have to be very careful of, is to make sure that the boot's sole isn't worn. As Mr. Birmingham said, as Frank said, you can keep these boots forever if you're careful with them. The boot itself is a very stiff plastic. It doesn't break down quickly. And so consequently, again, it will keep its shape and its ability to hold your foot securely. You mentioned earlier the way a boot fits.
Yes.
And that's a very important part of a boot for you, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to have any heel lift in a boot. So consequently, you want to get a boot that fits you in the fact that your heel sits down into the heel pocket, that the support over the instep of the foot pulls you back into that heel pocket, and that your boot fits snugly in the front. If the boot's too tight, you'll get cold feet. So consequently, you want to have enough room in the front so that you can flex your toes and move them around, but not be too tight to cramp your foot.
Tell me, when would you consider, or when would a person consider buying used equipment? I initially thought I would buy used equipment because I wasn't sure how I would improve this year. And before I bought anything, I thought I'd ask a lot of questions, and I did, and it was recommended that if I was going to be skiing, to buy my own. Used is okay if you're looking for something specific, but I wasn't looking for anything specific, so I chose to purchase. When would it be wise for a person to purchase used equipment?
Well, several different times.
Okay.
Willa. First of all, as a beginner, if you could pick up used equipment at a reasonable price, generally, as soon as the equipment leaves the ski shop for the first time, that high price is going to go down rather quickly. Okay? If you can purchase that equipment that has been used a season or 2 seasons, you're going to get a significant savings on that equipment, and you can afford to purchase much better equipment. If you decide to try skiing for a season and rather than renting, purchase your used equipment, you use it for a season. At the end of the season, if you decide that skiing isn't for you, or in fact you outgrow the equipment, you have an opportunity to turn around and resell it or trade it in for upgraded equipment. Okay. Personally, there's 5 of us in our family, and all 5 of us ski. And my wife has seen new equipment, my son has seen new skis, and I have seen new equipment. My other children have never seen new equipment.
But they ski just as well.
They certainly do. They certainly do. There's enough people out there who are turning equipment over that equipment can be passed down from family to friend. Okay? It can also be purchased through the ski swaps. That's one of the programs that we run in the ski club. Is generally the first weekend in November. We allow people to bring in their used equipment and sell it. We also allow people to come in and purchase that used equipment, as well as purchasing equipment from companies such as New England Action Sports and Ski House. So they get an opportunity to buy brand new equipment a year old at a substantial discount. Skiing's expensive enough with the lift tickets, transportation. When you add on the price of equipment, you're looking to save some money.
All right, so let's talk about clothes. We've talked about boots, we've talked about equipment. What about the apparel? I see some of the most beautiful apparel on the ski slope. I go through and I want one of those and one of those and one of those, and they all look good. Gloves, my best purchase this year. 99 cents, fully leather. Very nice insulation. I think it's Thinsulate.
Yes, it is.
I was very happy.
As well you should be.
Okay. Gloves and leather versus gloves in color. What about the pretty ones?
Do you want to answer?
Well, first off, I don't want you to mislead anyone.
Okay.
Your 99-cent find, I haven't found in a lot of years of skiing. So don't be misled by the fact that you got those for 99 cents.
No.
The pair of gloves that you're holding in your hand, the best I've been able to find on a similar type of glove is someplace in the round of $19.95 to $20, that area.
Okay.
Retail on them, first of the season, could go considerably higher than that. so that anyone isn't misled as to the pricing of this equipment.
Oh, yes.
As far as these gloves are concerned, this is Gore-Tex, and Gore-Tex is a water-resistant, almost waterproof fabric. Again, it's the Thinsulite that's on the inside of the glove. It's got a wrist strap that pulls the glove tight to hold it in. It's got a leather palm, so if you won't wear through the fabric as fast, because Gore-Tex does tend to chafe, and it will wear out from chafing. The gloves themselves are tremendous. The new gloves tend to keep you warm on all but the very coldest of days. Of course, the mitten is still available, and the mitten is the warmer of the two choices. It's probably not the most aesthetic, but it is the warmest. And when it gets down there to 0 and below on the ski slope, there's many a time that you bring the gloves back and put them in the bag and change to the mitten.
Good. How many pairs of gloves should I take? I took my youngest son skiing on family night. He went through the pair I brought for him. He went through my pair. He went through 2 pair we found in the lost and found. But he's 5 years old, and he fell in every puddle. He found every water opening, and I was at one point ready to leave because I did not have dry gloves. Thank goodness for lost and found. But then he is a beginner, so he's a novelist. As a skier who's been skiing for a number of years.
Your hands hopefully aren't going to touch the snow.
Okay.
So your hands are going to stay relatively dry unless it's raining. So 1 pair of gloves is going to do you very well. It's the beginner that really needs the better equipment when you really get right down to it.
Okay.
And it's the beginner that usually shows up in grandma's hand knits and is inappropriately dressed.
Okay.
And one of the things that we do with the ski club is we send home, in our first letter to parents, as we mentioned, a good leather palmed or leather glove. And we both heavily recommend the leather glove, especially for the beginner. They hold up better.
Okay.
If I may, one of the first years that I was involved in the ski club here in Wilmington, when Bill was running it at the North Intermediate, the kids gave me a pair of leather ski gloves, and that was, I would say, 17 years ago. That is my backup pair of gloves now. If you get a good quality pair of leather ski gloves, they should last you forever. Okay, I tend to carry 2 pairs of gloves in my bag, one that I'm going to wear and one to back up. First of all, it's not always me, it's not always I that is going to wear that second pair of gloves. For instance, if Jason, your son, had come to me and said, you know, gee, Mr. B, can I borrow a pair of gloves? He'd have a set to borrow. He'd have a set to use. My wife and I tend to have a backup hat, backup goggles, and backup gloves in each of the our family's ski bags. May I borrow these for 1 second, Willa?
Sure.
One of the things that we try to encourage with the parents and the kids is, first of all, right here, as you have done so, have the student put their name on the glove, okay? These clips on the ski gloves are put on here for a very good reason. And not only will the gloves click together, but they will also clip on to a person's zipper. So when they go in the ski lodge, if they zip their gloves to their zipper, okay, they will never lose their gloves. They shouldn't lose their gloves. And if they do lose their gloves and the name is in them, they'll find their way home. I would love to be able to find homes for all the lost gloves that have been left on the ski bus that I have kicking around in my garage that unfortunately names are not attached with.
Unfortunately.
One comment I'd make adding to that with the name, and that's that as you get into the higher priced glove, you may want to put the name more visibly. In other words, you may want to write it on the outside of the panel here or across the knuckle, all right, because they become desirable. And when left on the tables in the lodge, we can't always count on the honesty of everybody there. And so, as I say, it's preferable to write the name right on the outside. As far as gloves go, they do get pretty high priced. And when you get into the racing equipment, the premier glove maker is called Roche. And the Roche gloves run someplace between $75 and $85. So we're not talking about small change, and the ability to clip it on your parka, the ability to keep your possessions with you is an important thing.
Great. Tell me about Thinsulate. and the high-tech fabric that's being used that is so lightweight but yet so warm?
Well, Thinsulate is a product that's come out within the last 7 to 10 years. It's got some partners that are along with it, such as Qualifill for jackets and so forth. It allows them to make a garment that is much more wearable without being bulky and heavy. I don't know. I have a Thinsulate Parker, I have a Qualifill Parker, and I have a down Parker. And when it gets really cold, it's that down Parker that I still want to have. So,
Okay.
you know, they go all over the place. One of my children has a very, very lightweight Parker that's brand new. It's totally high-tech, and he claims that it keeps him warm on the coldest of days.
Great.
So,
Now, you also have a son that races. Tell us about ski racing.
well, I've got two that race.
Okay.
And we started them skiing at a very, very early age, 2.5, and as it's a family sport for us. Racing is a lot of fun. It goes in all sorts of different areas. Right now we have the NASTAR program, which is National Standardized Ski Racing, which is available at most ski areas. It's a run that almost any skier can go through. In the NASTAR program, they have a pace setter who sets a time for the course, for the specific course, and then you run against the pace setter. As you move from that into more organized racing, where you're involving coaching and so forth, in this area, there are two local ski areas that offer that. One is Bradford, where we take our students, and they have something called the ABM, which stands for Andover, Bradford, and Methuen, which are the three clubs that combine there. They hire professional coaching, and they have training a couple of nights during the week. It's a very inexpensive program at the ABM level. Their charge is $75 for their training, and then there's a charge for the weekly races that you would enter. Someplace between $20 and $25 for the race, which includes your timing and trophies for the winners and so forth at the end. It's a great thing for the student that's looking for an additional challenge in ski racing to do. Beyond the ABM, you go into the USSA, the United States Ski Association, and now you're talking a lot more travel. You're talking about a greater intensity of racing. You're talking about a longer, more technically difficult course in this. We mentioned courses. The courses vary in the style that you're racing. You go from slalom, which some of the students have seen on television, which is the close set gates, to a giant slalom, which is the two poles with a fabric panel between them, to what they call Super G, which is a controlled race down the hill, and then, of course, the ultimate speed event, which is downhill. So there's a little bit of everything for anyone out there that wants to race.
So for a little bit more challenge, there are opportunities available to students who would like to pursue this.
Well, my own children have gone a long way in ski racing. My oldest boy skis for the U.S. ski team. My youngest boy has quite a few accomplishments under his belt. Right at the moment, he's racing the Junior Olympics.
Okay.
So.
Now, has any of the students who've taken part in this program gone on to do other things, ski-related?
Oh,
Several.
Several.
Tell us about
Several.
some of them.
Probably the person that I think Bill would be the most proud of would be Bobby Matarese. Bobby Matarese is a former Wilmington resident who had skied many years ago as a student at Wilmington High School. And then he and two other gentlemen got into a van shortly after graduation, headed out to Vail, Colorado, and have not come back.
Vail, Colorado. Great skiing.
Outstanding. Vail is, I guess, rated probably #1 in North America as far as the size of it goes, and certainly as a desirability in some aspects as a destination resort. Bobby had set up the children's program out at Vail, Colorado. When we took the students from Wilmington to Winter Park, Colorado 2 years ago and spent a day at Vail, Bill contacted Bobby, and you want to fill in the audience on just
Sure.
what former Wilmington student had done for our present Wilmington students?
Bobby's the head of a $13 million section of Vail, which is their children's section. This takes students or children from 6 months old on up in a child care setting all the way up to a Learn to Ski program. And he has actually developed his own mountain, which he calls Mount Whippersnapper. And he has a chairlift there at the mountain for the students, and a very special run coming down off of Mount Whippersnapper. The chairlift has a rule that's kind of interesting, and that's that no adult can ride up without a child. And you have to pick up a child at the bottom and put them on the chairlift with you and escort them up the hill.
Yep.
And
Great.
when you arrive at the top, you come to Fort Whippersnapper. And
Okay.
you get off at Fort Whippersnapper. They specialize in hot chocolate and popcorn and so forth. On the way down the hill, in order to teach students the art of skiing, he has developed quite a novel method, and that is that he has tunnels to get them to bend forward and crouch and go through. He has movable boards for balance that you ski over. He has a luge, which puts you up and around as you come down through the course coming down, and it's even fun for adults.
Oh, it certainly is.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
It
But
was
Bob gave us a half a day of his very valuable time. He is a major director at Vail, and he met us and took our students. One of the first things that we wanted to do was ski what they call the back bowls of Vail, which is China Bowl, Inner and Outer Mongolia, and so forth. And these are just treeless expanses of snow that you can ski anywhere. And Bob is a superb skier, and he gave our students quite a tour out there. He took the better skiers, better younger skiers.
some of the older ones as well.
On what they call a big bump trail, which is the large moguls at Vail, called Highline. And then he picked up the senior citizens of the group and took us for a tour of the Children's Center. But Bobby, as Frank mentioned, went out there with several friends, Harry Latta, Frankie Simmons from Wilmington, and they're both what they call mountain guides at Vail. And that's when you come out with your family, if you'd like, you can hire one of them to escort you for the entire day and show you Vail, give you tips on your skiing, assist you in any way, shape, or form that you can imagine, from parking your car all the way to getting your lunch. And they have quite a time out there for themselves.
It must make you feel good to know that these are your students from years gone by, and
Well, you
how
know,
they've progressed so well.
They're the exception. They're the exception. But the thing that really gave me a lot of encouragement was one day I was down at Ski House when it was here in Wilmington, which is now Ski Town.
Okay.
And I walked in the door to pick up some equipment that I needed, and the owner at the time stopped me and he said, we just figured something out in here. And I said, well, what's that? And he said, you know that every employee that we have learned to ski in the Wilmington Ski Program. And that says a lot, because it's something that continues on beyond a school setting or anything else. It gives a source of employment.
If I may comment further on that, certainly we have taught a lot of kids to ski, or we've given the opportunity for a lot of kids to learn to ski. I think a lot of kids have picked up skills other than skiing through the program. I mentioned before about how we demonstrate with the equipment and how they then apply it. I think a lot of the students who have entered into the ski program feel very good about their accomplishments. I think a lot of that pride and that self-confidence, ability to hop on a chairlift by themselves with a stranger and ride up and start a conversation. I think those are skills that you can preach or teach in a classroom, but actually demonstrate in a non-academic, non-threatening environment. And I think a lot of the kids have benefited very well by that.
Great socialization.
Absolutely.
On that same line, we've seen students who have not been successes in other areas become a success at skiing and develop their own confidence through it. And that's been a really great thing.
Whatever makes them feel good, it gives something to be proud of.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm very proud to have had both of you, Mr. Birmingham, Mr. Peabody,
Thank you.
here in Wilmington, live and in living color, Ski Talk. Next year, your program will start as usual in?
Well, first weekend in November, we'll hopefully be running our ski swap, probably back at the St. Thomas's Church Hall, and From there, we'll be starting our instructional program the first Monday and the first Wednesday after the Christmas break. We'll be running our additional trips from there, and during February vacation we look to go back out to Colorado again, hopefully.
And chaperones are always welcome.
Certainly are. We encourage them, especially in the elementary program, the more the merrier. We like to have a lot of friendly adult faces around for the elementary school kids, and you know, it's amazing the number of adults who have said, you know, I had one bad experience when I started out skiing. My friends took me up to the top of the hill, said it's very easy, follow me. And I had a terrible time skiing, and I have now returned to be a chaperone in the program and has tried it in a different way, where they started with the lessons, sequentially have learned the skills of skiing, and we're very happy to say that not all the people who have learned to ski with us are kids.
That's great. My experience this time was with my 5-year-old. He wanted to go up the chairlift. I knew he was not ready, but I thought I'd take him for the experience. I never prayed so much in all my life. He was not ready. I will not do it again. The next time, he will be ready.
It's a good endorsement, Willa.
Thank you very much for coming.
Our
Thanks for
pleasure.
having us.
Thank you.